We need multiple ambulances.
Right now, a mom is held in jail with a $14 million bond, charged with murder after the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office says she shot her 4 children.
Yeah, such a tragedy. 2 did not survive. The other 2 are now recovering in a hospital.
Welcome back to Serial True Crime. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button real quick and smash that notification bell so you don't miss none of these stories we be bringing you. So look, this story right here, man, it's the type that it hits different. You know what I'm saying? We talking about a mama who was once on TV trying to figure out who her baby daddy was on one of them paternity court shows. Fast forward to now, and this same woman is sitting in a jail cell, accused of something that's gonna shake you to your core. We talking about her allegedly shooting 4 of her own kids, 4, and 2 of them babies didn't make it. I'ma walk you through everything we know about this case, from what happened that morning at that gas station in Texas, to what she been saying on social media just weeks before all this went down. This one here, man, it's heavy, so let's break it down. Aight, so here's how this whole thing kicked off. It's Saturday morning, October 4th. We in Brazoria County, Texas. That's south of Houston for anybody who don't know. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, right? The sun ain't even all the way up yet. And police get a call. The person on the other end of that 911 call, a woman named Oninda Romelus. Now check this out. When them deputies pulled up to this gas station, they ain't really know what they was walking into. The call came in, but it wasn't clear what was going on. When they got there though, man, what they found was straight up devastating. Inside the car, there was 4 children. 4 kids, fam. 2 of them was already gone. A 13-year-old boy and a 3-year-old little girl, gone. Just like that. The other 2 kids, they was 8 and 9 years old, and they was hurt bad. But thank God they survived. They in stable condition now, but yo, can you imagine what them babies went through? Deputies said all 4 of them kids had been shot, and get this, they believe the shots was fired inside the car. Inside the car with them kids right there. Now surveillance footage from that gas station supposedly shows Romeles getting out the car, pumping gas, and talking on her phone like it's just another regular morning. Then she waiting there till the deputies show up. But here's the thing, authorities still trying to figure out if she pulled that trigger right there in that parking lot, or did she do it somewhere else and then drive to that gas station? They ain't sure yet. A lot about this case still a mystery, you feel me? So the next day, Sunday, law enforcement held a press conference, and honestly, they ain't give up too much information. One of them officials said, and I quote, "We've been burning the midnight oil on this ever since this dropped, right? So I can assure you we're looking into this." That's all they really said at first. They was keeping things close to the chest. But then them court documents came out. And fam, when I tell you what was in them documents, man, listen. So according to these court records, after deputies took Romeles into custody, they asked her if she wanted to keep talking with them, and she said yeah. At first, when they asked her why she called 911, she told them she couldn't talk about it, but they asked again, and this time she said something that's gonna stick with you. She allegedly said, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm gonna do it to them." Yo, let that sink in for a second. The investigator asked her, "Do what?" And Romeles allegedly responded, quote, "Kill them all. Kill them all." Then she said she ain't even called 911. She said she called, quote, "the devil." Man, what? Like, bro, what is happening right now? As she kept talking, she told them she was ready to work, which detectives wrote in the court documents that it just didn't make no sense. Like, nothing she was saying was adding up. She did tell them she had 4 children, and she said their names and their ages correctly. But when they asked her where the kids was, she allegedly said, quote, "the devil." They asked her what she meant by that, and she said, quote, "they're dead," and then added, "because you can't take me without me taking you." Fam, I don't even got words for that. Like, how do you even process something like that? Now look, at that press conference, deputies said they wasn't gonna discuss nothing about the custody situation or the family dynamics before the shooting. But here's what we do know. This ain't the first time questions about paternity came up with at least one of these kids. Matter of fact, it came up real publicly. We talking about on a whole TV show called Paternity Court. The episode's still up on YouTube right now. And it was all about trying to figure out who the father was of an 18-month-old boy. Now we don't know for sure if that child is one of the victims in this case. But here's the thing, the age lines up. If you do the math, that baby would be about 13 years old now. And the 13-year-old boy who was killed, he was found slumped over in that car when deputies got to the gas station. So yeah, it's looking like that might have been the same kid, just heartbreaking, man. Now we also found an Instagram page that looks like it belongs to Romeles, and she was posting on there as recently as September 27th. That's like, what? A little over a week before all this happened? On that day, she posted a video with the caption, quote, "Mama, gotta have a life too." And then in the actual post, it said, quote, "Cause what it really do, you're not a bad B word if you're a terrible mother. To all my mamas handling biz and did not handle biz this week, baby, go to happy hour bleep." Now I'ma let y'all sit with that for a minute, because when you know what happened just days later, that post hits way different, don't it? So here's what else we know. Deputies said they investigating the home where Romeles and her kids lived. That house was in Montgomery County, Texas, which is north of Houston, like more than an hour away. So the question is, why was she all the way down in Brazoria County that Saturday morning? That's an hour drive in the opposite direction. What was she doing down there at 5 in the morning with all 4 of her kids in the car? That's one of the big mysteries right now. Nobody got answers to that yet. Romeles is now facing 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Her bond? Man, listen to this, $5 million for each murder count and $2 million for each aggravated assault count. That's $14 million total. $14 million. And even with all that, law enforcement still ain't said nothing about what the motive might have been. They not speculating, they just saying they looking into it. Now KHOU TV reported that CPS, that's Child Protective Services, they done had contact with Romeles in the past. But the details of that, they ain't been made public yet. As far as a criminal record, she got a mugshot from 2022. That was an arrest in Fayette County, Georgia. She got hit with a DUI, possession of marijuana, failure to maintain lane, and having an improper tag. Court records show she pleaded guilty to the DUI and the improper tag charges. Prosecutors decided not to go after the other 2 charges. Now, to help us make sense of all this from a legal standpoint, we got Anthony Osso. He's a criminal defense attorney and a former assistant district attorney down in Texas. And he broke down a lot about what could happen with this case. First off, he said the evidence they probably relying on heavy right now is that 911 call. Plus, they got interviews from the 2 kids who survived. Now, normally, eyewitness testimony is real strong, but in this case, these is her own children. So Osso said prosecutors gonna want to build up more evidence to back up what them kids saying. And them 2 kids who made it, they both minors. They 8 and 9 years old. So the prosecution gotta be real careful about how they handle that, especially knowing these babies gonna have to possibly testify against they own mama one day. That's a whole lot of trauma right there. Osso said prosecutors gonna be looking at everything. Shell casings, surveillance footage, anything that can support what them kids say happened. Because when it comes time for trial, if it gets to that point, them kids' emotions could be all over the place, and that could make things complicated. Now about that $14 million bond, Osso said that's high, even for Texas. But here's the thing, in Texas, they gotta follow the Constitution just like every other state. You can't use bail to oppress somebody and everybody entitled to bail. But if they decide to file capital murder charges, which also said is possible, they could have what's called a proof evident hearing. And if they do that, and they trying to seek the death penalty, they could hold her with no bond at all. But right now, she just facing murder charges, so she entitled to bail. Also said her defense attorney's probably gonna file a writ to try and get that bond lowered, but even if they do, it's probably still gonna be out of reach for her. And honestly, even if they lower it, what's the point? If it's still over $1 million, she probably can't afford it anyway. But also said it's still the lawyer's job to try and get it as low as possible. Because if your client is locked up, it's harder to communicate with them and put together a solid defense. Now remember them bizarre statements she made. Talking about the devil, saying kill them all, saying her kids is dead because you can't take me without me taking you. Yeah, all that. Also said on one hand, that's real incriminating, but on the other hand, it could make you wonder if she was in the right state of mind when all this went down. And that opens the door to a possible insanity defense. But here's the thing. In Texas, the bar for an insanity defense is real high. You gotta prove that the person wasn't aware of the consequences of their actions, like they really couldn't process what they was doing at the time of the offense, and that's hard to prove. Insanity defenses don't work out too often. They happen, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule. Still, also said statements like the ones she made would at least tip the defense off to explore that option, especially when we talking about first-degree murder charges or potentially capital murder, where she could be facing life without parole or even the death penalty. The defense got to explore every avenue they can. So the defense would probably start by getting an expert to evaluate her. They'd look at the facts, look at the investigation, see if they can establish that she was acting out of insanity. And if they're gonna use that kind of evidence at trial, they gotta notify the state. Then the state would probably get their own expert to do an evaluation too. Now also said the prosecution would likely rely on the circumstances around the shooting to argue against an insanity defense. For example, the fact that she left the scene and called 911 could show that she knew what she did was wrong. Like she fled because she was trying to avoid getting in trouble, which means she understood the consequences of her actions, so that would work against her. Now let's say they do find out she got some kind of mental illness, like what if she's schizophrenic and never knew it? Also said that could be helpful for the defense, but it ain't automatic. You gotta tie that mental illness to what happened that day. You gotta show that because of that schizophrenic episode, or whatever it was, she couldn't process what she was doing. And that's where it gets tricky. Plus, finding an expert who gon' say that schizophrenia could lead to somebody not recognizing what they doing, that's hard. You need an evaluation that proves she really didn't realize she was shooting her own kids. And that's a high bar to clear. Now let's say they do file capital murder charges, and they going for the death penalty because she shot 4 kids and killed 2 of them. What's on the other side of that? What if the insanity defense actually works? A lot of people think if somebody found not guilty by reason of insanity, they just walk free. But that ain't how it works. Also said there's a structured period of time where they still locked up, but they in a state mental hospital instead of a regular prison. They stay there until their sanity and competency is restored. So it ain't like you just get away with it. You still gonna be dealing with consequences, just not the same kind. But even if they can't mount a full insanity defense, Oso said if there was any kind of mental health issue, the defense could use that to try and mitigate whatever offer she might get from the state before trial. Like they could use it to try and negotiate a better deal. Now, one thing that stood out to Oso, and honestly to a lot of people, is the geography of this whole situation. Romeles lived in Montgomery County, which is north of Houston, but she called 911 from a gas station in Brazoria County, which is south of Houston. That's an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes away from where she stayed. Speaking of deals, Oso said if the prosecution got the evidence they think they got, and it's as strong as it seems, they probably ain't gonna be in no rush to offer her a good deal, especially if there's nothing to support that she was acting out of a mental health episode. He said the defense gonna be hard-pressed to get any kind of offer that would resolve this case without some serious time. We talking long sentences here, and if they file capital murder charges, we could easily see an offer of life without parole. And when you looking at sentences like that, it usually leads to trials, because at that point what you really got to lose. So if you the defense attorney on this case, and let's say the mental health argument just ain't there, how do you even approach defending somebody like this? Especially if the prosecution feel like they got a strong case. Also said investigators definitely gonna want to find out more about why she was down there, and the way they probably gonna do that is through her cell phone. They'll get a warrant to search that phone, talk to witnesses who knew about her life, and try to piece together what led up to that morning. So why was she at some random gas station at 5:30 in the morning with all her kids in the back seat? That's odd, right? Like real odd. And even if there ain't no mental health issues, there might be things in her past that could help explain why she did this. So the defense gon' wanna dig into her childhood, look at every layer of her life, see if there was trauma or other things that might have led her to respond the way she did. And yo, when you think about that reality TV show she was on, Paternity Court, trying to figure out who her baby daddy was, that says something about the kind of struggles she might have been going through, you know? Is that the kind of story a defense could tell down the line if this goes to trial? Maybe, we'll see. Now this all happened on Saturday, October 4th. By the time Oso was talking about it, it was only Tuesday, so it had been just a couple days. But Oso said don't expect this to go to trial anytime soon. The wheels of justice turn slow, especially in Houston and the surrounding counties, because there's a big population and a lot of cases. He said he don't see this case going to trial within the next year and a half. More likely, we looking at 2 years, especially when it comes to murder cases, and a murder of a child at that. There's gonna be boatloads of discovery. The investigation don't stop just because they caught the suspect. Police probably still out here writing warrants, trying to get into her electronics, trying to establish a motive and understand why she did what she did. And if the defense do try to make some kind of mental insanity argument, the prosecution gonna want to have evidence to counter that. They gonna want to show that nah, she knew what she was doing. This was intentional. So yeah, this investigation gonna be ongoing for a while. Yo fam, this case right here, man, it's one of them ones that just, it don't make no sense. Like how do you wrap your mind around a mama allegedly shooting her own kids? 4 of them, and 2 of them babies is gone forever. A 13-year-old boy and a 3-year-old little girl. And them 2 kids who survived, they gon' carry that trauma with them for the rest of their lives. They 8 and 9 years old, and they gotta live with what they saw, what they went through. And on top of all that, if this goes to trial, they might have to testify against their own mama. That's heavy, yo. Real heavy. We still don't know the full story. We don't know what was going through her mind that morning. We don't know why she was an hour and a half away from home at a gas station at 5 in the morning. We don't know if she was dealing with some kind of mental health crisis that nobody knew about. There's a lot we don't know. But what we do know is this: 2 babies is gone, 2 more is hurt, and a family is completely destroyed. Law enforcement said they burning the midnight oil trying to figure out how this could happen. And honestly, we all trying to figure that out too. This is serial true crime, and we're gonna keep you updated as this case unfolds. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you ain't already, and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going.